welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. I shall see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where, well, happy 29th of February, I suppose. I mean, do you say, like, happy leap day or something? I'm not really sure. If your birthday is today on the 29th of February, happy birthday. I know it's a rare situation, I suppose, where you actually get to say that in the first place, due to the frequency, I suppose, of, 29th of February's occurring. But yeah, you know, here we are. I wonder if, I suppose, the modern calendar you use to make sure that our years are roughly aligned with, I suppose, the orbital cycle of the Earth around the Sun, as best as it can. But anyway, good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhollow, it's 10:29 p.m. on Thursday, February 29th, 2024. Oh, that's right. Okay, shooting stars. Okay. What a wonderful thing to celebrate. And interestingly, I think this must be the first leap day, I suppose, that we're celebrating in Animal Crossing, right? Yeah, because it was released March 2021, wasn't it? So this is the first time we've actually had a leap day in Animal Crossing. So I know for certain I've not spoken about it before. But yeah, if you don't know what a leap day is, which, you know, I would say surprising, I suppose, at this point. It's just every 4 years we have an extra day in the end of February. I don't know if there's any cultures which don't, like, ascribe to the idea of a leap day. I feel like it must be so widespread now. And I mean, the Gregorian calendar is kind of used by almost every country, even if other countries have their own separate calendar systems as well. I feel like most do at least use a Gregorian calendar, like, for ease of communications and things like that, right? I mean, the leap day is, yeah, it's an extra day added every 4 years on the end of February to basically account for the fact that, well, I mean, the way we divide up our days, the way, like, we define days, I suppose, as a human civilization, is arbitrary, I suppose. We do it because it's, you know, based off these rotations around the sun and, like, what is close enough. But, of course, the Earth doesn't take exactly 365 days to orbit the sun. You know, in fact, it's closer to, like, 365.24 days or something like that. I can't remember. So it means that if we were just to have a solid 365 days, year on year on year on year, eventually we will start to get out of sync because of that 0.25. We basically, like, because it takes 365.25 days to get, like, around the sun in one orbit, it means that we will be off by a quarter of a day every single year, which means that after 4 years we will be off by an entire single day. Hence the need for the addition of a leap day at the end of February to be like, hey, you know, here's an adjustment to be made to make sure that things work out, you know? What was I getting with this? I don't remember. But this is important because, you know, generally we want things to be aligned. Because, you know, honestly, a quarter of a day is actually quite a lot to be out each year. If you think about, like, in your lifetime, that means in your lifetime you might see something shift 20 days. That means, like, the entire Earth's rotation is almost out, like, an entire month. Which I suppose by your lifetime alone, maybe that's not that big a difference. If you know what you knew as January 1st when you were younger, it's now become, like, January 20th, or I suppose, would it go backwards? Right, but I'm not going to think about how. Am I going to think about which way around it goes? Yeah, it should go backwards, right? So it would be the same as December 10th. That might not make much of a fundamental difference, but, like, after, you know, a few generations of people, you will have, like, spring and summer, like, all the seasons will be shifted across by one. I mean, you have a double that amount of generations, and all the seasons are now reversed, which is certainly strange, I would say, and it's probably why, you know, you'd want to correct this sort of thing, and to make sure that things are aligned, and synchronicity, I suppose, if anything. Although being synchronized to any sort of degree of precision outside of like a day or something probably only really matters all that much to, you know, people who, like, work with cosmically, or, like, with space or that sort of thing. That's probably not true, by the way. There's probably, like, many situations where it would be worth, like, making sure that things work as expected, but so be it. Yeah, what was I going to say about this? I don't really remember anymore. Excuse me, I need something to drink some water. I don't know what my throat's like so today. But Yeah, so I mean, that's basically the story behind the leap day. I mean, there's not really much story behind it, like the explanation, I suppose, behind it in the first place. But because also the fact that it's like 365.24 or something, you might not actually know about this, but like leap days don't always occur every 4 years, as it turns out, because like you need sometimes you'll need adjustments and sometimes you don't. Because of decimals, because of maths, the same sort of reasoning applies. Is that every 4 years there will be a leap year which has an extra day, except for every 100 years that leap year will not have an extra day, because every 100 years maybe it's like off by 0.01, I guess, and that would make sense of 365.24. But then it's like every 600, except for every 600 years, yes, there is another, that one does have a leap day, and it, except for every like 2000 it doesn't, or something like that. I can't remember like how exactly it scales up. It's something like that, but basically, there's a thing being like, oh, does this have a leap day, does this not have a leap day? And it's something like that. I think it's okay, every 4 except for every 100, except every 400, except every 2000. That might be right. Because I think it was something like the year, was the year 2000 a leap year? Honestly, don't recall anymore. I was also like 3 at the time, I suppose, or like just turned 2, I suppose, when like the new millennium came round. But it's that sort of vibe, isn't it? Hold on, Wikipedia's probably got Wikipedia leap day, Gregorian calendar. Each year, February 29th is added in a year that is an integer multiple of 4, unless it's divisible by 100, but not by 400. For example, 1900 was not a leap year, but 2000 was. Yeah, that's it. Like 2000, you would expect not to be a leap year because it's a multiple of 100, but actually because it's a multiple of 400, it is a leap year. Pretty crazy, huh? The Julian calendar since 1923. So, leap... The convention of using February 29th was not widely accepted before 15th century. From Julian's edict until the 16th century, February 24 was doubled instead. Oh. Never really thought about that, to be honest. Sorry, a little bit of a pause there. Actually quite a long pause, but still. What are we talking about? We're talking about the leap day. Because it comes around once every 4 years, except 100, except 400. So, I mean, there's not really much else to say about it, to be honest. You might be like, do you know anyone who was actually born on February 29th? There was like a family friend's mother or something was born on February 29th, except I can't remember whose, like, which family friend's mother or something like that. Probably not one we keep in contact with, but still. Or at least not one I've kept in contact with. So honestly, who knows? Apart from that, I don't think so. I don't even know many people born in February. I know like 2 people, I think, personally, who have a birthday in February or something. Which is not a lot. I mean, I suppose statistically it is the least likely, but due to having fewer days. That's another thing. I'm not really sure why the calendar's like this, to be perfectly honest. Like I'm sure these things are born out of like not because someone sat down and was like, all right, how are we can distribute the days? Let's do it like it's 31, 30, that's not, it was like, right, 31, 28, 31, 30, 31, 30, 31, 31, etc, etc. Presumably it's just sort of like, I don't know, maybe like January and March both had 30 days and so did February, and then for some reason we just like took it from February because of some weird festival or something that happened back in the like 400s, and then it's just stuck around ever since. But it's interesting, it's nice that February, I suppose, gets a little something, I suppose, on these leap years after all. Can you imagine how crazy it would be if, like, instead of February getting the extra day, it, like, went to December or something? So then we had, like, a December 32nd. Really inconsequential, but, like, I don't know, it just feels weird. Like, why make the distribution of the days even more lopsided than it should be, There's no need. It's just, well, lopsided, I suppose. That's quite literally what it is. But yeah, surprisingly, now I think about it, February 29th, despite the fact it's, rare occurrence, you would have thought there'd be, like, some traditional celebration you're meant to do on February 29th or something. Like, maybe it would be, like, a day dedicated to the forgotten things or something. Like, you would have thought You know, people in history generally like making celebrations out of things, out of events, out of whatever's. So you would have thought that February 29th, someone at some point would have done something with it. But, you know, I don't really know anything that happens on February 29th. Okay, hold on. I still do have the Wikipedia page I had open. So February 29th. Because a lot of things that happen in history. So it wasn't until when 1923 when it started with Julian Reform. There's no Julian Reform happened in 1923. What? Right now, folk practice having 2 days that appear the same day is evolved a custom practice. Bisectile. In England, of course, it was 29th. So sometime during the 15th century is when it starts increasingly appearing. Until the middle of 16th century. That's an interesting question. I've not really thought about. Like, on the grand scale of time scales of things, 4 years is, like, within a human life, is somewhat long. Like, how many 4 years are you going to get throughout your life? About 20, maybe, or so. So that's enough times for it to occur during a human life that, you know, from start to finish of your life, you would be like both notice it and also be like, hey, something should be done about this, right? How, like, long a gap would the correction have to be for, like, the equivalent of leap years in a hypothetical parallel dimension for it to have a significant effect on how long it took a tradition about it to come to fruition? Like, right now it says, like, by 15th century, you know, some, like, people started picking up, like, imagine you are being like, okay, I'm the, like, I was going to say progenitor, but I don't know if that's the actual right word, but the person who, like, gives birth to this concept or idea. A personal thing from which an animal is descended. Okay, that's kind of what I meant. So imagine you're trying to be the progenitor of people using 29th of February as a thing. You know, currently the common practice is 24th of February twice, and you're like, this is silly. Like, you only have so many opportunities throughout your life. I mean, to basically be like, hey, you know, today's 29th of February. You know, imagine it's like the first 24th of February and the next day, and we'll be like, oh, do you want to meet up tomorrow? It's like, oh, what? Yeah, on the 24th of February. Oh, you mean the 25th of February? And you're like, what are you talking about? No, the 24th of February. I mean tomorrow. It's like, no, sorry to tell you. Actually, I'm changing it to 29th of February. And then people will just go, what are you talking about? You can't just, like, change your calendar system like that. It's perfectly logical, the fact that we have double 24s right now. I mean, it's so easy to remember. You just remember 24th of February. It happens twice. And is in no way confusing to legal documents. Like, how do you just, like, start that? Because you only have so many times you can do it throughout your life. Like, the first 4 times you encounter a leap year, you're probably, like, lost to the void. You're not going to be campaigning for that sort of thing. And probably, like, the last 2 leap years as well. So you only have, like, 14 leap years to basically try and force February 29th into existence rather than something else. I mean, I guess these things only really catch if they sort of make sense. Probably people were just like, yeah, February 24th twice doesn't make sense. I always get confused if it's 24th for first or 24th for second. Might as well just, like, add in another date or something instead. Kind of makes a lot more sense. So presumably the first time they used it, they were like, oh, you know, that's a really cool idea. I'm going to start using that as well. But that seems like such a big change. Right? Like, how does that get adopted? Like, it's something you'll have to explain to people. You'll be like, oh, can I, like, book a doctor's appointment or something? Oh yeah, can I book it on February 26th? And then in your mind, you're actually talking about, like, as we know now, it's February 26th, but in their mind, they're like, oh, February 27th. And it just, like, you know, you just, I don't know, you get fined, I suppose, for not turning up to your doctor's appointment or something. Like, how do these things catch on? I guess what you kind of need is you got to have a good enough idea about, you get the first follower, I suppose, and then you get a bunch of followers who eventually start catching on. And then once it becomes known within that community, you know, maybe it spreads to the entire town as even all the townspeople start using it. And then it's just like, oh, you know, some travellers coming from town, they're like, be like, oh, why is your calendar all different? It's like, oh, we actually have February 29th. And then it starts spreading to, like, other cities, etc., etc. Then it just becomes common parlance. But what if, like, leap years happened every 20 years or something? Like, it took 365.05 days to for the Earth to circumvent circumvent seems, well, go round, I guess, to go round the sun. It means that, like, throughout your life you'll probably only see 3 or 4 leap years. Like that time scale is a lot longer for you to like make something catch on. I mean, I suppose you could try and make it catch on, I suppose, outside for leap years, but people would be like, it's like, come on, dude, it's like 12 years until our next leap year. What are you talking about? Why are you talking about like the fact that we should have 29th of February? Just be happy with the fact we have double 24th of February, you know? It's just, I guess I'm just like, I don't really know how these sort of things catch on. Maybe I'm not enough of a trendsetter. I'm not enough of someone who would go out there and just like start an everlasting trend, I suppose, which will catch on for the rest of humanity. I mean, probably the answer is just like, oh, someone in power just was like, oh, you know what, this is how it's going to work this day. From this day forward, no one's ever going to refer to 24th February again. It's always 29th of February. And then people are just like, okay, what am I going to do? Go against the king and get executed? Or, you know, just like, I guess, adopt the 29th of February. I assume that's kind of how it happens. I don't really know, you know. If anything, I suppose it's kind of like you need, maybe there's like a moral event or something, like you need some semblance of power in the first place, I suppose, to make some real change. And, you know, but then, you know, you get like, when you get like more stories in there, power can be derived from many different sources, including just like enough people doing it, right? You know, powers in groups or something like that, power in numbers, safety in numbers, but still. I don't really know where I was going with this. It's just, I don't know, I thought you might be interested. Yeah, so what else was I going to say about this sort of thing? I honestly cannot recall. What was I talking about? I don't know. Anyway, there's also something called a leap second, which I don't know how often it happens, but it's something which only matters something like on a cosmic scale, like people working in NASA or the equivalent, where sometimes at the end of a year or something, instead of having, you know, it going 23, 59, 58, 23, 59, 59, midnight, it will go 23, 59, 60, then midnight. There'll be an extra second in there just to make sure like things are aligned or something. And you might be like, where did you learn that from? Was it that Tom Scott video about why time zones are so like difficult to like program and account for? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. That's also a really good video if you haven't seen it. Basically Tom Scott like gives you a theoretical scenario of like building a website, of trying to find the difference between like the number of seconds between two different dates, and the amount of troubles you run into when you're trying to understand how differences between time works. And it's like the big punchline, I suppose, to the video. It's like eventually you get a call from NASA and they say we just had a leap second, and you just go, what? It's so fantastic. But yeah, anyway, leap years, leap seconds, I don't know. What if instead of having leap days, we just had like a leap week every 28 years or something? Why do we do that? Honestly, I don't really have a good reason. Why don't we have like a leap hour? Like every, I guess that's too confusing. I'm just like, why would we not have like a leap quarter day? It doesn't make any sense. How are you going to have a leap quarter day? Hello. Obviously, because I guess days work in literal day increments, it doesn't really make sense to have a quarter day if you're trying to offset for correction, because then all your hours will be shifted by 6, and it's just be like, oh, I'm waking up at 7 a.m. and it's like pitch black or something. And no, it's not just winter. I don't know where I'm going with this. My throat feels weird. Anyway, I'm going to round this episode up here. I've got some D&D stuff to work on for tomorrow, so if you haven't been watching, thank you very much. Oh my god, what's up with my throat? If you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope you see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.